You ready to get into some New Music Friday stuff, Cooper?
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the latest, greatest.
This is Producing Music Podcast with Mark Dollar and Cooper Anderson.
You know what? This one's going to be a really fast one because I don't know about you. I mean, it wasn't really that great. I mean, for me, it was the only song I could actually stomach was this one song called I Know Alone by Haim. And the only thing that was cool about it was that the mix sounds cool and there's some good atmospheres to it. But production wise or anything different, there's nothing new, and that's just the way it is. How about you?
Uh, yeah. I skimmed through everything. Drake was number one. Obviously, sounds kind of like every other Drake song to me. I mean, they're dope, but they're very formulaic. So it's not
Yeah.
wasn't really um new for me. But
Sounds like the same old shit to me.
yeah. Number two is the Marshmello and Halsey collab, which I thought was really cool. I'm a big Marshmello fan and Halsey fan, but Marshmello's production's super dope. But that one was kind of interesting because of the vocal treatment. It sounded like almost like she recorded it on her iPhone or something. Like it was kind of almost lo-fi, but there was like they had a lot of auto-tune glitches on there. So I don't know. I just feel like these days they're like, people are just kind of glossing over the actual like learning of the vocals part and just doing one take and then just melodyning the hell out of that and using that as the vocal because everybody's so busy, you can't get back in the studio. Nobody's in the same vibe when they do get back in the studio. It may not have the same vibe. So even when I'm doing writing sessions, I actually try and get like the vocals as close as possible to finished or something I can use. Because if you don't, then you may not get back in the room with that person again. So
Yeah, exactly.
you get what you get.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is I grew up in the time and where, there was nothing but stacks and stacks and stacks of vocals. Like you couldn't get through a session unless you were doing like at least 70 stacks of like backgrounds and stuff. And I was actually just talking to one of my clients in that there was a time and where I actually didn't mix single vocals nearly as good as I did like multi-tracked vocals and stuff like that. You know, but yeah, I don't know. When it comes to this New Music Friday, I want people to know something. You know, if we think it's trash, it's trash. You know, like we're not gonna sit here and cookie cut for you or anything like that. We're not getting paid by any one of these artists. You know what I'm saying? They're not slipping any money in our pocket to be like, hey, mention the Marshmello song or mention the Drake stuff. No, we're gonna let you know whether or not these are real good, releases or bad releases. And in total, we might skip over the whole New Music Friday in one segment in general if it's that bad. What do you think, Cooper?
Yeah, I mean, I did actually listen to every single song on there, not all the way through, but I listened to a few seconds of each one. I mean, just because I think it's trash that's not to knock like the actual artist or like the producers or the people who put those records together. People spend a lot of time making these records supposedly, but like, that doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we live in a world in where people feel like they have to like things, and that's the thing. I mean, back in my day, it was actually cooler that you hated more things, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, wow, he really doesn't like any song but this one song, so it's that good,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, that kind
But
of
now
ties into
it's
what
like
we're going to discuss later with the revisions, but we'll revisit that thought, like making people like stuff. So we'll
exactly.
be coming back to that a little later.
Yeah. All
Uh,
right. What else do we got here?
so
So we got
music,
some music.
yeah, music news. There wasn't really too much. I mean, the big news was Spotify had their earnings, you know, because they're a publicly traded company. So their earnings went really well. The stock went up. Um, what I noticed is that the streams of new releases from big artists like J Balvin and whatnot, there was a lot of big artists that had new releases, but those are actually down 25%, and catalog streaming is up 25%. Not 25%, but catalog streams are up. So like overall streams are up, but that's driven a lot by people are listening to the tried and true, like the classics. I think some of that has to do with a lot of the, you know, pre-streaming records, you know, they were made in a time where there was much less distribution, so you had less choices. But then you look at songs like Uptown Funk, which came out, you know, post streaming, and that's like one that's kind of stayed at the top. So they're still coming out with records like that. They're kind of classic, but in general, you know, the tried and true is what people are listening to. They're not really going on there to find new stuff, or they're finding the new stuff and not listening to it.
Well, I can imagine with all this COVID stuff, it's kind of putting people into certain places where maybe they just don't enjoy music the same way. You know, think about it. You know, you go to work every single day, you know, you're hopping on a train or in your car or something. That probably gave people the most time to listen to new music without even thinking about it. But
Yeah.
now a lot of people are at home. So it's like, maybe they just don't have that time anymore or that sense of discovery. You know, maybe it's not as forced as it was back in the day, and where, you know, you would have to listen to your radio. I mean, whenever I had a car back in the day, I mean, I was always subjected to like one or two stations, so I had no choice but to listen to new music.
Yeah.
You know, but maybe that's the case, who knows. And speaking of all the COVID stuff, I've been finding that there are a lot of what I like to call COVID collaborations, you know. And, you know, sometimes these collaborations are like dream collaborations of sorts. And that's one of the things that is probably one of the, rather would say one of the coolest things that I'm seeing from all of this, like, you know, seclusion that everybody's in. You know, like Dave Grohl did Times Like These with tons of other like stars and stuff. I thought that was cool. But I will say something. You know, I've been hearing a lot about these versus battles, and I haven't even actually tuned into one because everybody that is tuned into it apparently can't even watch it because no one apparently knows how to fucking make the shit work appropriately. So what do you think is going on there, Cooper? It's like, what do you think they need to do in order to make this better? I don't know. It's like, I can't believe that they don't have like an engineer in the room or something, or someone that can, or like they're one of their sons that can help them like get on to the internet and live stream okay.
Yeah, I mean, you got to basically have some sort of broadcast engineer. Like, you know, right now on this podcast, that's what I'm doing, you know, but like I set it up with the streams and this, that, and the other. It's not really straightforward. So, you know, it's kind of a new skill. And the other part of that too is like, you know, everybody and their brother is live streaming now because, you know, obviously the concert business is on hold for the time being. So that's like the quickest and easiest way to, you know, get your stuff out in front of people. But the problem is there's so much content that, you know, people, you know, you're gonna get less numbers. I mean, I'm on Twitch like every night, but I just flip through a few channels till I find something that's interesting. For instance, last night, you know, I usually watch like music production stuff. You know, there'll be like some producer making, it's usually dubstep and stuff like that on Twitch. But I wasn't really feeling any of the tracks that were on, even from like the people that I do love. So I ended up watching Questlove for a little while. He was doing a DJ set, and then I switched over to Insomniac, which is basically like they're restreaming EDC performances. So
Interesting. All right. Well, cool. I'm gonna have to check out. I've never checked out some of the Questlove live streams. You know.
yeah, he's been on there quite a bit. He's just DJing, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then today, when I was setting up for this, I was watching. I don't even know who it was, but they were doing like a live DJ show with like live looping, and they were actually performing too. It was kind of interesting. So they had a lot of viewers. I think it was like 4,000 people watching.
Wow. Man, I wish I can get that, but you know what? I'll probably never will get to ever watch a live stream or even do a live stream. Why, Cooper? Because all I do is work on fucking revisions. That's all I do.
That
And
was
I've
an
been
epic
pissed off
transition
about
right
it.
there. Epic transition.
You
Props,
know?
props to the interview transition.
Yes. But seriously, let's talk about this. You know, it's like my biggest thing, you know, I let people know that it's always good to have like revision protocol, you know, like you only, you know, promise a certain amount of revisions, A, B, you know, they have to be written out. I also prefer timestamps. But when it comes to working with bands, it becomes this like this island of misfit toys layer or something. I don't know. And where you say to everybody, hey, this is the way I want to receive those revisions. Number one, you don't want to be receiving a revision for every member of the band. If there's 5 band members and you got, you know, every one of them giving you 4 really detailed revisions, then you're pretty much done for the day in terms of what you're going to do because you're having to go through and work on all of those revisions. And revisions are already kind of this uphill battle kind of thing for most engineers because, and you know, I've learned this over time, you know, not let the, you know, my ego get in my way and I just do as I say. And this is something that you taught me. However, there are times in where people, and this is something I heard from Andrew Sheps. You know, Andrew Sheps, you know, said in one interview one time that he has people, there's 2 different types of clients for him. There's the clients that he loves to work with, and then the clients that sit there and hire him just so they can tell him to turn stuff down.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Sit there and tell him how to do his job.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, back
You know,
up
so-
a couple seconds before, you were saying about you get, you know, different detailed revisions from multiple band members. I mean, the problem there is, you know, oftentimes when you get those multiple revisions, there'll be competing requests. Like the guitar
Yeah.
player wants the guitars up and everybody else wants the guitars down and stuff like that.
And you know what? That's exactly what happened the first time around. I did this one metal mix, and you know, I was talking to the singer about it. He was like, you know, he was telling me it just sounded so good to him the first round. Everybody was all good with it, and then the next person I hear from is the guitar player who's like, turn the guitars up. So I turned the guitars up, and then no one likes the mixes anymore. So I was forced to go back to round 1 with all the revisions that they have for round 1.
Yeah.
But they also have more revisions as I went along. So I had to take all those revision pages and put them all together into things that made sense just because the guitar player wanted the guitars up. And then when I made those versions, no one liked them.
Yeah.
You know? So guitar players, stop being fucking prima donnas. I'm a guitar player too. I love playing guitar. I love hearing my guitar, but you don't need to feel or hear your guitar all the fucking time. Jesus. Like, You know, if that is one of the most self-centered things you can ask for, it's like, hey, I'm a guitar player, turn my shit up. No, you got to hear the vocalist, you got to hear the singer, the drummer,
Yeah.
everybody.
Everything
when it
works
comes to the
together.
and when it comes to a record, you only have about this much of space to pull it off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? By the time you get past all the loud drums, the basses, and any other parts of the song, you're trying to fit a guitar into where?
Yeah.
Like, So, I just you're right, in terms of making sure that, I don't get so many different revisions, and I don't. But this band, for some reason, they just kind of forgot those rules. I always send out one sheet too. It's always this one sheet that says, hey, please give a few days to listen to a few different ways, a few different systems, and everybody has to come together to make the revisions, and only one band member can come back to me with those revisions.
Yeah, you need a spokesperson.
Yeah, exactly. Because that makes it all easy. But the fact of the matter is they don't know how to do that. So bands, if you are working on a record, make sure that you guys can agree on what your mixes are supposed to sound like.
Yep, pretty much.
And guitar players, stop being prima donnas.
Yeah, I mean, the way I try to look at it, I learned this from my mentor, Ken Lewis, is, the revision process is not try every mix idea possible. It's not a time for that. That's what the mixer did before you heard the mix.
Yeah.
When you're doing revisions, the mix is the mix. You just may need to do some minor adjustments for your personal preference.
Exactly.
But don't
that's
circles,
what I think. Yeah, exactly. That's what I think was happening to me. And to be honest with you, I'm not one of those dudes. I haven't ever had a record in the last 4 or 5 years and where I've gotten farther than revision 2. If I didn't nail it by the second mix, then I wasn't working on it anymore. And with that being said, I just find myself in this position and where, once I get to that third one, I'm like, oh, I don't know. For me, I guess I get a little burnt out when I'm working on some of these records. Like, I've particularly been working on this one for about 11 months. So it's like, now that I'm on my third revision, I'm just like, Jesus, like I'm bracing myself. And I didn't even need to be here, apparently, because every one of the band members liked the first time, except the guitar player.
Right.
Yeah,
I had the same issue with a band I was working with a few years ago, and it was the drummer. And like, still to this day, we would go back and listen to the records, and like the whole album, the drums are way too loud. Or not way too loud, but they're definitely too loud. Like, bring them down a dB or two and it would have been fine. But like, we spent so much time. Oh, turn the drum up just a little bit. And
wow.
And that was with a one spokesperson thing, but it would be more like everybody would copy, they'd take the emails from everybody and then copy paste the things in and then make sure there was no competing requests. And then if there were, they would discuss that amongst themselves. But at the end of the day, the drums were too loud because that guy whined the loudest. So
exactly. Yeah. Now that's a good term. I've never actually thought about that in myself. I mean, I understand it, but I never thought of it in terms of just like giving it a straight name, or limbo for it, which is, what you're saying is competing requests. And basically, that's one of the reasons I think I was trying to call you that day when I got the revisions back, and I think I couldn't get in contact with you. See, that's what I'm saying. I need Cooper in my life more.
You need a little Coop therapy?
Coop therapy.
Yeah. Here's the Coop therapy. It sucks. Just put your head down, get it done, move on.
Exactly. Word. So, yeah, I got my coop therapy for the day.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
Cool. Any kind of final passes of ideas you want to talk about? Anything you want to give out there to the listeners to think about this week, Coop?
No, that's basically all I got. I mean, now is the time if you're looking to, make records or whatever. I mean, yeah, I know stuff is bleak out there, and obviously, if you're in like, a situation, you got to eat, and have shelter and whatnot. But once that stuff figured out, no matter how bleak it is, like now is a great time to just get in the studio and kind of do whatever you wanted to do, because once the economy starts going again, we're going to be back to work. So
Yeah, exactly.
This is
I would say, for most people, you should be getting out there. Well, not out there, but staying inside and making sure that you work on all of the ideas that you're trying to work on, if that's working on like getting better at your mixes or your productions, if that is, buying more gear or like, kind of furbishing your gear, stuff like that. Do that stuff because you're not going to have the chance. Everybody up to the very moment all this shit happened was like, oh, I don't have the time to do anything. I don't have the time to do anything. Like, we got a few friends that, they can't even, they can't even, figure out what they're doing the next second, because they're so busy, know. And now everybody's home, and they at least have the time to do the things that they love or get to be a part of the things that they love the most. So please go out there and do that stuff, please.
Yeah.
Or stay inside and do that stuff.
Yeah. Well, get out. By get out there, obviously you mean get out on the internet. Get out in the public. Post stuff. Finish that song.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
buddy. All right, buddy. Let's wrap it up, and we'll talk again next week.
All right, bro.
Producing Music Podcast, brought to you by us.
Check us out
Mark
every
Dollar,
Friday,
Cooper
guys.
Anderson.
Yes.
All right, buddy.
Peace.